You stand in the bright pharmacy aisle staring at plastic bottles. You are looking for the perfect SPF rating for your weekend. But here's something that shouldn't be possible. Scientists found an ancient man with skin as dark as midnight. He also had piercing, bright blue eyes. By the end of this video, you'll never look at your own skin the same way again. For our ancestors, the sun was never just a weekend hobby. It was a relentless, crushing force that dictated who lived and died. Imagine having no sunscreen, no hats, and no permanent roofs. Imagine your skin was the only thing between you and the star. If that thought makes your skin crawl, welcome to ancient human logic. Why did we eventually lose the protection of deep, dark skin? The answer changes how you look at every person you pass. Long before cities existed, every human on Earth shared one look. Our ancestors in the African heat were all deeply, darkly pigmented. This was not a coincidence or a random fluke of history. Dark skin was a high-tech biological shield against a brutal sky. We often think of skin color as a cosmetic feature today, but in the ancient world, it was a vital survival tool. Early humans eventually lost their thick body hair to stay cool. Sweating allowed our ancestors to hunt for hours in the midday heat, but losing that fur left their bare skin vulnerable to radiation. The solution was a massive dose of a pigment called eumelanin. Think of eumelanin as a biological parasol built into your cells. It absorbed the dangerous rays before they could do real damage. Specifically, it protected a precious nutrient in the blood called folate. Folate is the secret fuel that keeps our DNA from breaking. Get this wrong, and a baby's spine doesn't form correctly. In the tropics, the sun is a folate-destroying machine of light. Ancient humans with dark skin survived because their folate stayed intact. This is why you still feel a primal relief in deep shade. Your body remembers when the sun was a hunter of life. But then, some of our ancestors decided to walk away. They traveled north, away from the intense glare of the equator. They moved into lands where the sun was weak and pale. Suddenly, the biological shield became a biological cage for the body. In the north, the sun was no longer the primary enemy. Instead, the enemy was the lack of a different vital nutrient. That nutrient was vitamin D, the foundation of strong human bones. Your body needs UV rays to manufacture vitamin D in skin. Dark skin is so good at blocking light that it failed. Get this wrong the other way, and bones snap under their own weight. This created a massive survival crisis for the early northern tribes. They had to choose between protecting folate or getting vitamin D. It was a biological trade-off written in the cold mountain air. Now here's the part that breaks everything you assumed. You might think this change happened the moment they arrived. That is a common myth we have believed for many decades. We assumed humans turned white as soon as they hit Europe. But the real evidence tells a much more shocking story. Ancient DNA proves that Europeans were dark for a long time. 10,000 years ago, the typical European looked very different. Take the famous case of the ancestor known as Cheddar Man. He lived in what is now the United Kingdom long ago. His bones reveal he had dark to black skin tones. Yet he also had striking bright blue eyes and dark hair. He was not an outlier or a strange biological exception either. Most Western hunter-gatherers shared this exact same striking physical appearance. They had the skin of the tropics and eyes of ice. This is why you sometimes feel a strange disconnect with history. We imagine the past as a mirror of the modern world. But the ancient world was a shifting mosaic of human traits. If this is blowing your mind, hit that subscribe button now. There's more evidence coming that's even harder to believe. So why did their skin finally decide to turn pale? The answer isn't just about the sun or the cold. It is actually about what our ancestors put on their plates. For millennia, hunters ate plenty of wild game and oily fish. Wild meat and fish are naturally packed with essential vitamin D. As long as they hunted, they didn't need pale skin. They got their vitamins from the liver of a deer. They got their strength from the fat of a cold water fish. But then, the greatest revolution in human history finally arrived. Humans stopped moving and started planting seeds in the dirt. Farming changed the chemistry of our bodies almost overnight in history. Early farmers relied on grains like wheat, barley, and rye. These grains are notoriously poor sources of any vitamin D. As the diet shifted to bread, the vitamin D stores crashed. Suddenly, the sun became the only source left for survival. Early humans who couldn't absorb light from the sky died out. The pressure to lighten the skin became an urgent necessity. This happened in rapid waves across the northern landscape of Europe. About 8,000 years ago, farmers arrived from the Near East. They brought a specific gene called SLC24A5 into the local tribes. This gene acted like a dimmer switch for human skin pigment. It washed out the darkness and let the light in deep. But that gene wasn't the only one. A second wave was coming. 5,000 years ago, another group arrived from the plains. These were the Yamnaya, nomadic herders from the vast eastern steppes. They brought another gene, SLC45A2, which lightened the skin further. This is why your modern skin reacts so specifically to light. You are carrying the survival gear of ancient wheat farmers today. But this wasn't just a story that happened in the West. Ancient humans in East Asia faced the exact same survival puzzle. They were living in northern latitudes with very little winter sun. They also needed to lighten their skin to stay healthy there. But they didn't use the same genetic toolkit as the Europeans. This is a beautiful example of humans finding different solutions. East Asians developed light skin through entirely unique genetic variations. They used genes like OCA2 and DDB1 to solve the problem. It is like two different inventors building a light bulb separately. The result is the same, but the inner wiring is different. This proves that light skin isn't a single human invention. It was a necessity that appeared wherever the sun grew weak. Ancient humans were masters of adjusting to their local environment. They weren't just victims of the weather or the landscape. They were biological innovators who adapted to every new challenge. Your skin is not just a color or a social category. It is a sophisticated sensor designed for a specific global coordinate. It is a map of your ancestors' long walk through time. When you feel that winter gloom, it is a memory. Your body is craving the light that your ancestors lacked. When you tan in the summer, it is a defense. Your body is rebuilding the shield that protected the first humans. We often look at our differences and see high walls. But science shows us that these differences are actually bridges. Every shade of human skin is a success story of survival. Every freckle is a record of a sun that was too bright. Every pale cheek is a record of a winter that was too long. Our ancestors didn't care about the aesthetics of their physical appearance. They cared about the strength of their children's growing bones. They cared about protecting the DNA of the next generation. They were scientists of the skin, experimenting with light and shadow. We are the living result of those thousands of tiny adjustments. If you feel out of place in your modern environment, remember, you were designed for a world of wind, sun, and soil. Your body is a finely tuned machine for an ancient planet. You are not malfunctioning when the seasons affect your mood. You are simply remembering the stakes of the ancient northern winters. You are not just a person standing in a pharmacy aisle. You are a survivor of the greatest migration in world history. Your ancestors traded the dark for the light to keep you here. They moved through the shadows so you could stand in the sun. It was a heavy price to pay for a fragile existence, but they paid it so that you could exist today. Next time you look in the mirror, see the history. See the sun of Africa and the clouds of the north? You are a walking archive of human resilience and strength. Your skin is the most honest story ever told about us. Did you know about Cheddar Man and his blue eyes before this video? Tell me in the comments. It's the detail that surprises people most. And if this changed how you see your own skin, share it with someone. See you in the next deep dive into our collective memory.